Thanks, Nathan, and thanks again, everybody, for coming here. We're extremely grateful that you guys are able to take time out of your day to see the Revizto 4.2. So just starting off, we're going to start off with our export process and how this has changed a little bit. There's just one minor change in 4.2, and this is something we've heard a lot of you guys asking for, and we've certainly listened and tried to incorporate it in, and that is going to be our vector sheets. So simply when we're exporting out of Revizto, the same one-click export out of Revit, Navisworks, ArchiCAD, SketchUp, Civil 3D, we'll come into here, and once we click export, we're going to see a different breakdown. So we have a little bit more ability to select specifics that we want to see in Revizto. So right here we can select this. Obviously, if we want our appearance profiler information from Navisworks coming in, we'll uncheck this, or our colors that we filtered in Revit, we can uncheck this for coordination. Other than that, we'll select export, and we're going to see a sheet format. So originally it came in image. We're still playing a little bit with our vector format. It works pretty well today. I would highly recommend you guys testing that out and comparing that if you want to be able to zoom in a vector format and mark up sheets in a further detail. So in this example, I'll click export to Revizto, and we will jump into Revizto 4.2. So here we are in Revizto 4.2, and as discussed, we have our vector format sheets. So if I come up to our 2D format, you're going to see all of our sheets now are in a vector format. So this is extremely nice for those who want to get into granular detail and be able to edit some of these very, very large sheets coming out of Revit. So our PDFs were always in a vector format. Now our sheets are now in a vector format as well. So that is going to be one of the first changes in Revizto 4.2 that we've made. Probably one of our largest and most impressive features that's going to be really hard for us to show you today is going to be the ability to do everything that we can do in Revizto in VR. So we now are supporting the HTC Vive controller, so we're ready to rock and roll with that. So now we can manipulate models, drive through the model. When we select metadata in VR, we're going to see this pop up. We can measure, we can create issues, we can switch projects, and all that's going to be live in VR. So this is really, really exciting for us, and a lot of our customers who have got to kind of play with the beta are really impressed with it as well. So we greatly urge you guys to export Revizto export your models into Revizto, and as most of you guys know, when we click that export process, we see that we have our Revizto 4 icon, and we also have our Oculus viewer and Vive viewer. The Vive and Oculus viewer are an exact replica of what is in our original Revizto. So if we open up our Vive or Oculus viewer, it's just going to be a replica of the projects we already have in there. So every time we export, it's already coming in an Oculus compatible format and a Vive compatible format. One thing I want to note on this, so I've heard from a couple customers that have played with some very, very large projects, and they said, hey, we haven't maybe received the frame rate that we're looking for. Revizto is different because we're actually using the exact, the geometry and the information from that model and converting that. So we're not reducing polygons and making the model prettier for VR, and there's a very short time period with just the export process to get it into a VR format. So what that means is that if you're utilizing a very large project, you need to find where that ideal middle ground is. So for customers that are exporting maybe a large hospital project that has a lot of details, maybe a large project that's going to have a lot of polygons, what we've seen happen is they'll export the first floor and the second floor and the third floor all as separate projects. So here we'd see floor 1, floor 2, and floor 3. And by doing that, we're greatly reducing the polygons for that entire project and only pushing out what we need to walk through in VR. This will greatly reduce the amount of polygons in each project, and it will increase the frame rate in your Oculus, so or Vive for that matter. So Revizto is very easy and very simple to get in a VR format, but you do need to be cognizant of the polygons in your large models and make sure that it works well with your hardware that you're utilizing. So next is going to be our file optimization. So our file optimization is absolutely huge for our users that are not on the state-of-the-art beefy machine like some of our Navisworks gurus are. So if we don't have a 1080 graphics card with 64 gigabits of RAM and we want to collaborate and coordinate on these large projects, this may have ran into an issue in the past, and we may have had to segment out projects or portions of the project. Well, now with Revizto optimization, this is absolutely incredible how simple it is. So here is our standard optimization that I brought into Revizto. Simply underneath the Edit tab, we have our project optimization on the bottom. By selecting project optimization, we're given a couple choices. Low optimization is going to bring this down, I would say 20 to 30%. We continue to have textures. We have our standard, which might bring it down about 50%. Maximum is going to be a little bit more than that. And then we also have our last hope optimization. So when I did some experimenting with these, it's very hard to tell the difference between our full model that we have here in terms of quality compared to those optimizations. So it does a phenomenal job in still retaining image and quality of the model while still reducing the file size. Where we see the biggest difference is what we call our last hope optimization. So these are the people that are really pushing the limits. It might be a large IPD project with 20, 30, 40 linked models in there, and it's just absolutely massive. So being able to do some of these on tablets, we need to reduce the file size. So in this example, I did the last hope optimization because it looks the most different. So I want to show you what this looks like. I took a file that was about 1 gigabyte and it brings it down to about 100 megabytes. So it's absolutely incredible for that. And it's the difference between allowing an iPad user to be able to view the model and do coordination and not being able to open up this project. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. I'm going to open up. I've actually already converted a project, actually the same project. We'll collect. Nope, don't sync. And I'm going to open up our maximum last hope optimization here. So you can see all the coordination issues are going to be the exact same. All the geometry is still retained. When I open up 3D, it's going to be a lot smaller. And the biggest difference with last hope optimization is that textures are taken off. So if we look at this wall, those are taken off for size. But when we get into the model, you can see that it's extremely easy to navigate. And so I have an older iPad that I was playing with, and it just works phenomenal on this. So all the metadata is still available in here, and we can see all this information. All the geometry is still in here. So if we do our measuring, it still works the exact same. We just don't have the image quality. But for coordination, this is just phenomenal. So I would highly recommend you guys playing with this and being able to test out the file optimization. One other thing under file optimization you guys are going to see is we also have, and it's hard to see in this project because this one's already optimized, but we also have optimized for textures for iPad, desktop, and purge textures. So definitely experiment with those as well. And I think you guys are going to be pretty happy with the experience for some of the users that don't have those expensive machines. So I'm going to switch back to our standard Revizto project here. So we are also now able to import DWF as well, so we have DWF support. In addition to that, we have released a Mac OS for our Mac users. There's a Mac app that's going to work with the Macs and Revizto. And we have also, as Nate said and alluded to earlier, we have our ArcVision content coming in. So for those RPCs that might not have been coming in, or the people in your Revit model, those are all going to come in. So we are now supporting that as well. So coming up to our editor button, we also have the ability to manage, and it's actually under projects. We have the ability to manage revisions also under projects. So this is another nice feature that we can manage the different export processes and see, what's our latest version, or go back to a current version. Maybe it's, we pushed out something that we didn't want to see, or we want to go back to the 30th of September and be able to check out maybe where a model was on that date, or maybe the 15th of July. This is all done from inside the project. So that's another small change that we've also made in here. So in terms of the workflow, we kind of want to show you what this looks like while coordinating from the Navisworks model. We want to do a quick overview before opening it up for questions on the issue tracker as we continue to optimize that portion of the software. So for those of you guys who have followed this, hopefully this is going to be a good quick overview for you. So one of the biggest workflows that we have seen is people appending and federating their model in Navisworks and then utilizing the plugin within Navisworks to track those issues. So what we've done here is we've exported through the Revizto export button, and then we've appended our Revit model to be able to get our Revit room names and our Revit sheets into the model. So now we're still running our coordination meeting out of Navisworks, but our users are able to use the Revizto viewer instead of Freedom. So the usability of this and being able to track this is really valuable. So I'm just going to come down one of these rooms. I'm going to create an issue here in this hallway. We'll pick on maybe a fire protection issue here. I'm simply going to go to Revizto 4. Instead of creating a viewpoint now when I have an issue, a coordination issue, or creating a screenshot, I'm just going to go to Revizto 4 and click New Issue. From here, it's going to recognize the project because our project is linked. It's going to take that screenshot, and instead of having to update or upload our NWF to an FTP site and have people open this up in Freedom, we can call out this area and do all this directly from Navisworks. So I'm going to say fire protection test 1. And when I select done here, the nice thing about this is we'll say webinar test, is that in real time this is going to show up on all of our Revit sheets, and it's going to show up in a couple different formats. So the first thing, as you saw, when I clicked enter, it actually pushes that to the Revizto issue tracker. So it launches the issue tracker in a separate window. So we're still in Navisworks here. We can see that on my screen here. And instead of emailing this, if we're going to email a screenshot, we're talking about where these, we're naming these viewpoints, we're simply going to come up to the I button, and instead of saying in the email when we want this done, we're going to actually select a date for accountability. I'll say the 29th of October. We're going to come down to assignee. I'm going to assign somebody in this project. I'm going to pick on Ben, for example. And then we can come down and instead of, this would be who I'm going to send the email to. And then instead of going to CC people on, we call those watchers. So instead of CCing, I can edit and I can add a couple other people onto this project as well. Next, if this is potentially an RFI issue, we'll come in and a lot of times we'll tag this as an RFI or it needs to be pushed to our RFI log so we can filter those later. So from here, instead of writing our email, I'll simply minimize our information tab and select our chat box, and we can see the screenshot that I took at 12:15 p.m. And from here, all I'm going to do is type in exactly what needs to be fixed. So I'll type in the issue, and we can see that we now have a live timeline of where this has taken place. So anybody within this project that's been invited has the ability to now collaborate on here and add their 2 cents. So maybe I want to come up here and say, you know what, we should really put that fire protection piece over here, and if I select done, we're going to see that iteration. So we can see this first one that I created at 12:16 has no markup in it. When we come down, we see at 12:17 I added another comment, and you can see that I added the location of where that should be placed. So this looks really nice when we have multiple people collaborating on this project. And we can now attach photographs or documents to that as well, the same as what we could do in 4.0. So where this breaks down really nice visually is the statuses. So we have our statuses open. So if we're working on this, we can say in progress. We're going to change the color of that. So now when we come back to this issue, we can see this issue's location, and if we select 2D, even though I created this screenshot in Navisworks, it's actually going to portray this on any of our Revit sheets, elevations, or details that it pertains to. So in this example, I'll select our level 1 sanitary plan. You're going to see a quick breakdown of all of those issues on our vector sheet. So here's that hallway that issue was, and I can see the other issues pertaining to that as well. The nice thing is you can see our current issue is in blue, as it's represented over here and assigned to Ben. Here we can also see our in-progress issues, our open issues, and some of our solved issues. The nice thing about Revizto is the intuitiveness of it, because we also tag that as an RFI. So if we want to filter by our RFI log, I'll simply go to the filter button, select tag, and this is really sharp. So when we select RFI log, you can see it immediately filtered out my plan, and actually out of my 114 issues that show up on this level 1 sanitary plan, only 3 of them are RFIs. So we can see the status of those. It looks like this one's in progress, and I could select it, and it immediately brings up this Dave test issue that was created by somebody's iPad. We can come over here. It looks like an open issue that's past deadline in red, so we can immediately see those issues that were tagged on that sheet. So that is how we use the combination of our filtering tool stacked with the issue tracker. So taking this a step further, if we are on the sheet and we want to create, maybe we saw another issue on here. Looks like we're going to go to the bathroom over here. We saw an issue that needs to be addressed. Simply take our tag, place where that issue is, and then we can mark up these problem areas. So just like we would in a normal 2D format, we can select this, do a call out. Test issue 15, we're going to call it, select done. So as I've logged that, we can log issues on the fly. So I went from one issue, when I saw another issue, we can create that immediately. It's all done in that vector format. So if we come to 3D, it's actually going to take me to that 3D location of that object in real time. So this is all happening instantly. It's all happening on the fly, and it's all happening in an intuitive platform. For those of you who don't know, we've also released full support for Retina displays. So for anybody who has a Surface Pro 4 or a larger iPad, those are going to work seamlessly in Revizto now. The icons are much bigger because of the pixel density. So folks on an iPad who might mark something up, everybody else on the project team will be able to see this in real time. So if we want to bounce back to 2D, we can see the location of that. And because I'm filtering by RFI log, we weren't able to see that. So I'll bounce right into here, and we can see where that issue was taken. It looks like we had one other issue on that plan as well. So taking this a step further, well, maybe this issue is going to have to be addressed now in Revit. So our architect's going to jump back into the Revit model, and instead of having to open up Freedom Viewer or see a screenshot and try to locate where that is and what plan it is, especially for larger projects, simply they're going to come into Revizto 4 and go to Issue Tracker. And from here, they'll open this up, and then they're going to have a live link, and they're going to be able to collaborate and coordinate directly from their secondary monitor. So we can see the sheet example webinar, and I can chat back directly from Revit. So we'll type directly to that person, and from there, all I have to do in Revit to fix this issue is double-click on this. It was done in a 2D format, so as you guys guessed, it actually brings this up in a 2D sheet format. So now, right within Revit, we can zoom directly into this issue and fix this problem area. As you guys can kind of see on the right, we do not create multiple views in Revit. This is just one Revizto view that continues to be updated and changed. So taking it a step further in Revit, we'll go back to our issue tracker after we've addressed that issue. I'm going to mark this as solved so our project team knows that this is fixed. And now we can have maybe a BIM manager come back, and they can at least close this issue out later. So we can set those specific criteria or protocols so we can always stay organized. I'm going to come back to this webinar test, and we took this in Navisworks. But in Revizto, it doesn't matter because it's based on coordinate systems. So whether it's origin to origin or shared coordinate, it doesn't matter. If we want to fix this fire protection issue, because we're on the same coordinate system in Revit, I simply double-click, and in real time, because this issue was taken in 3D, it's going to show up, and we're able to identify the fire protection issue in the 3D model. The same holds true for clashes as well. So for those of you having frustration around accountability in clashes, we can also export those clashes into Revizto as issues. So as that means, as you guys kind of just saw, we can export our clashes directly into the Revizto issue tracker and therefore open them up in real time directly in Revit in an isometric view. So that is really, really big for accountability and being able to just address these issues on the fly. So the last thing I'm going to address before we kind of open this up for questions for you guys and give you back time to your day is creating issues in Revit. So as most of you guys might know already, any issue that we have within the Revit model, we can simply come into the Revizto plugin just like we did in Navisworks, just like we can in AutoCAD, just like we can in Revizto or on a tablet. We create a new issue. Immediately takes that screenshot, whether it's 2D or 3D, it doesn't matter. We can zoom into an effective area that we want to fix, and we can color code this. So we have our effective area, and I'll just name this RBT test issue. And when I select done here, pushes it into the issue tracker. It shows us where it's located on the roof plan. And it also allows us to switch into 3D. So for those users not technical in Revit that still want to see where this issue is, they can still see that screenshot in Revit. Even if I'm not technical, I can still select this issue, re-edit the markup, and I can draw on this. And I'm not technical in Revit, so I can say, oh, well, what about this one? So we can address these issues in real time without being technical in the design program that that issue was created in. So as I mark this up, we can select 3D and to switch back to the Revit model. And as you can see, we start to have these notifications and those color codes. So as we're flying through the model, whether it be in VR or in, or in just on a regular desktop, laptop, or mobile device, we're able to zoom in and see those issues. And we'll do one quick switch back to Navisworks. And if I see this issue in Navisworks, I simply double-click that, and it's going to take us out to where that exterior location was so we can see that area. So as you guys can see, this switchback isn't limited to one direction. It's bi-directional no matter where these issues are created, whether they're created in Revizto, whether they're created in Navisworks, whether they're created in Revit. We're able to switch back to any kind of platform that those projects are linked to. So with that being said, Nathan, I don't know if I missed anything that you can think of that we need to address. I don't know if there's any questions that have came in so far that haven't been addressed already. Sure. So Nathan wanted me to go back through real quick on the stability of the VR. So we've put a lot of emphasis in the stability of the platform. And so that's been a huge focus of us for 4.2. There's a lot of stability improvements within Revizto in terms of the back end and speed of export and stability of the switchback and model integration. So a lot of that stuff has been improved as well. Also in VR, the just overall stability and experience that people are having upon export has been greatly improved. So that's something we've focused on as well. And we're gonna, and actually I'm gonna put this over to Nate for a couple of the features that we're going to talk about our product roadmap and a couple of things that are potentially coming in end of 2016 and 2017 for those of you guys.
Thanks, Mark. Great job. Just wanted to recap a couple things and talk a little bit about the future as well. So And if there's any questions, please start typing in the chat section there in the GoToMeeting, and we can address those again in the order that we receive them. But a couple of exciting things I want to talk about that will be coming in at the end of Q4 and beginning of Q1 within Revizto. Now, of course, we're a great visualization and fantastic VR capabilities within Revizto, but really the big benefit here is coordination and collaboration. So we want to continue growing that piece of our product, and with that, we'll be launching an RFI Log, and potentially do submittals as well within our product, but RFIs will come first. So within the RFIs, we'll actually be able to create an RFI within Revizto, create your RFI form, have that automatically routed through the proper chain of approval, and also be able to tie those RFIs directly to the different issues that you've created. For example, you see there marks the number one issue at the top there is issue 313. So say, for example, issue 313 was tied to RFI number 6. They go in sequential order. We'll be able to have that ability here shortly, and we're excited to bring more collaboration and more project management aspects to the tool as well. So those are a couple. That's one major thing that's going to be coming down the pipeline here. Also, increased security as well for passwords. I know there was a requested from some of the high-profile projects that are currently being done in Revista. So just with the increased SSL certification, password will be increased as well as we move here towards the end of the year into Q1. So with that being said, great job, Mark. I want to open it up for questions. I'm going to turn it back over to Mark. Again, if you do have one, please type it in there. We can address it now. I don't see anything coming in just quite yet, but I'm going to go ahead and turn this back over to Mark, and we'll give everybody just a couple of minutes to ponder and see if you have any feedback or comments or any questions whatsoever. We'd love to address them now.
Excellent. Thank you, Nathan. And yeah, just to kind of start to wrap up this webinar, we did record this webinar, so I know sometimes this is capped at 100 people, although we had more than that, or almost double or 3 times that signed up for the webinar. Some of you guys may not have gotten in, or some people within your firms may not have gotten into this webinar, as we always have a short amount of people we allow in to watch it live. So we will be pushing out this webinar. It will be able to be viewed at a later time as well. So if there's any questions, we want to be cognizant of the time that you guys have during your day, so we try to do this as efficient as possible. So if we can, so any questions, we'll open that up for questions right now, and answer those live if there's questions you guys have after seeing some of the releases in 4.2.
Just a reminder, we'll be at RFI University, do a class on Tuesday the 4th.
And as a reminder for those of you guys taking the track to Las Vegas in AU 2016, we will have a class on Tuesday afternoon at 4:30. So looking forward to seeing a lot of you guys there, also stopping by the booth and saying hello. We have a special release coming out at AU, so really exciting. We're not going to announce it today. We don't want to keep any or take any away of the anticipation from AU, but it's going to be pretty groundbreaking. I know we'll be the first people in the industry to be able to do this, and something that some customers have asked for, and we're able to be able to do that, and we're going to wait to release that on opening day of AU. So we're excited to do that as well. So it appears that our question button either isn't working or we did too good of a job and there are no questions. So we'll give it a couple minutes here to see if there's any questions. Oh, there are a bunch of questions, Nathan.
Oh, I'm missing them.
Yep, so if we select, okay, I apologize, guys. Yep, so we're going to open up these questions. I apologize for those asking those questions So it looks like once optimized, can a project be? Okay, yeah. So in terms of the optimization, the way it works is that the project is exported directly into Revizto as the original format. From there, you can select the optimization quality you'd like to push out to your team. Once optimized, you need to select sync, which you can see highlighted on the top left of my screen right now. It's actually in a bright white right now. And what that does is it allows you to select that quality. So it allows you to, depending on the group of hardware that you guys are utilizing, it allows you to select, based on the user group. So maybe at one stage of the project, it only needs to be optimized to a certain extent where now you have a lot of mobile users coming in on tablets that need to be optimized. We can go from there as well. So in terms of the optimization, you can re-optimize to a different level, so it doesn't lock you out where you have to go back and re-export.
Please talk about ArchiCAD support.
So ArchiCAD support. So for those ArchiCAD users out there, you can export directly out of ArchiCAD into a VR format. We do not have the switch back to ArchiCAD, just based on the amount of usage that we've seen in terms of the features used out of ArchiCAD. We haven't seen a need for that yet, so we do not have we don't have an issue tracker built directly into ArchiCAD, but you can create those issues directly in Revizto and be able to fix those in ArchiCAD like your traditional workflow.
Is there support for exporting spaces?
Is there support for exporting spaces? So whoever asked the question about
Robert Bell.
Who is it?
Robert Bell.
Robert, if you can maybe expand a little bit on that question, or follow up with you maybe after the webinar. I'm not quite sure about exporting spaces and what that entails. So if you're referring to sectioning off areas or exporting specific areas within the model, we can do that. But maybe I'm not understanding your question.
Is there any ability to bring phase information from Revit into Revizto?
So phases, excellent question from whoever that came from. Mike Engel?
Mike Engel, yeah.
Mike Engel. Well, thanks for the question, Mike. That's a great question. That is coming up in Revizto 4.3. So phasing and being able to isolate models, similar to how you can isolate models in a model tree in Navisworks, is coming up in Revizto 4.3, which comes out in the early part of next year. So we're looking forward to bringing that, and that's obviously been something we've put into our product roadmap, and team has started to put that in. So that is coming shortly. So excellent question.
Russell Strange, is there a way to add images to an existing markup?
Yeah, so Robert asked, is there a way to add images to an existing markup? That's Robert Strange. So we're going to walk through that real.
Russell Strange from AECOM.
Russell Strange from AECOM. So yes, the answer is, and we'll show you that real quick. So any of these markups, if I wanted to add an additional, let's see if I can get my, so we can see right here, I can simply select this photograph button, and on an iPad or on my computer, if I select this, you guys are going to get a picture of me right now. So we can add an image there, or we can attach an image to here as well. So by simply selecting, going into our images, we can just attach a photograph there as well. On a Surface tablet, this is obviously going to initiate your camera. So, yes, absolutely, you can add photographs to an existing issue.
Is the map button available?
Yeah, so is the map button available in VR? So for those of you that have heard me speak at AU last year or RTC in the summer, you guys know that that's my favorite button for navigation. So for those of you guys not familiar with our map key, the answer is yes, it does work in a VR situation. So in terms of navigating, simply all we're going to do here. Look, I have my images open. So we'll simply select 3D, and here's our map key. So what they're talking about, our map key, some people have heard me call it our intelligent plan. It basically gives us a lockdown of what all of our Revit room names and all those textures. So if I want to come into the fitness center here, my favorite room in this building, I can simply select it and we're in that area. So that will work in a VR format. So everything that you can do in Revizto is the exact same on a tablet. It's the exact same on a Mac, and it's going to be the exact same in VR. So we're taking this live, so you can at least view issues, you can view clashes, you can view areas in the map, and be able to navigate through VR. So the answer is yes.
Next question, Mark, is there a plan for construction field additions, i.e. manpower tracking, daily reporting, RFI? So we are going to get to that project management aspect. We're going to start with RFI and go from there.
Yeah, so the question about
manpower tracking
and daily tracking and reporting. Reporting is coming up in shortly. So there's some greater aspects of reporting coming up in our next release. We're going to get into more detail, but we want to be cognizant of what Revisto's value is to our customers. So we're not trying to replace your project management software completely and say, hey, it's Revisto or it's your project management software. So we want to be able to better integrate with those solutions to make that workflow seamless. So we're not saying, hey, you need to get rid of your project management solution, but we do want to make it easier to track RFIs, to initiate RFIs, and be able to better integrate that into the systems and the technology that you guys have already put an investment in. So that is definitely something that you probably will see within the next year.
Does Revisto still merge link files into one thing? Is there a possibility to turn the link files in Revisto to one color?
Yep. So the question is, Revisto still merges does Revisto still merge linked files into one scene? Yes. So you do not have to use a program like Navisworks or Revit to federate or append your model. You can export from multiple different directions. The reason that I go through the Navisworks workflow is because most people are already appending things in Navisworks to do clash detection. So therefore, it's just one additional step. It's export to Revisto. If you are not doing clash detection or you don't have a federated Revit model, you can very easily go to the export button out of Revit, and there is a button. And Nate, if you can go to if you want to go to Revit real quick, and if you click export under the Revizto 4 tab, it's going to ask you if you'd like to export this as a new project or append this to an existing project. You can see this is already linked to David Gruber's law office. So if this is a new project, it will give you an option to link to an existing project in Revisto or export as a new project. So you can append that to a current project. So if you had just your structural model in Revit and you wanted to export that, export just the structural and update that to the architectural, you could do that within Revisto. So as long as it's the same coordinate, it'll come through smoothly and you can do that. And the secondary part of that question was the colors. Yeah, so that is coming out in Revizto 4.3 in our product roadmap, where we can break out different models by that. The colors will come through the appearance profiler in Navisworks or filters in Revit. So that's currently the workflow that people do is typically just isolating those colors or those different areas that they want to talk about through the design program and pushing those into Revisto. Revisto will reflect those colors as long as the appearance profiler is not checked upon export. So the answer is there's going to be a lot greater ability to filter and color code those in Revisto in the future.
All right, next question here. Is it possible to have a schedule maintenance for objects in the model?
Is it possible to have a maintenance schedule for that? So read the question one more time. Is it possible to schedule maintenance for the objects in the model? Yeah, so we don't have a tie-in scheduler or any kind of 5D integration yet. You can tie maintenance schedules just through. Yep. So we can do this through our 2D format. If we come into our 2D portion, we can create folders, and we can put schedules within a specific folder and rename those, and keep those PDF schedules in there. Additionally, what we can do as well, and we've seen this probably a little bit more common, similar to, let me go to fly mode. I'm going to come up here to one of our chairs. So you can see that we have our URLs in here. So when we scroll through here, we have these URL links. We've seen a lot of customers putting maintenance schedules. So if it's a pump, they'll have the maintenance schedule tied into that object data. But in terms of the scheduling process, we don't have anything like that currently.
Okay, next question. Integration with Hololens.
Integration with Hololens, integration with BIM 360 Glue. So Hololens, we'll take the first question. Hololens is something that that we're going to be discussing with our customer development team. We have a group of some of our high-end customers that really understand Revista, really knowledgeable in the industry, that we meet with a couple times a year. And that's one of our discussion points, is how HoloLens should look and how the integration should look. So, so definitely that's something that we're focusing on in 2017, as that's became more and more prevalent in our industries. So, yeah, so integration of HoloLens should be something you guys see in the future. It's something that Revista is very well set up for to begin with. So the way the platform's been built, it makes it really easy to get into that AR situation, where eventually, hopefully, we'll be able to tie that into facilities management, where we can go into an area and select, select a place based on the location of that HoloLens, select a wall, and be able to, see maintenance schedules behind that, or some of the information pertaining to that. Also, on the construction side, that's going to be very large in the upcoming years in terms of integrating location of data and what it actually looks like while being on site, opposed to just viewing that in an office setting through the Vive or Oculus. So it's definitely something we want to focus on. Integration with BIM 360 Glue. So we don't have a direct tie-in to Glue. We do export, similar to, I believe Glue, you're allowed to import Excel files and some data that way. So we can export these issues as an Excel format, and those can be imported into any kind of project management solution or system that takes Excel format. We also have seen people export. So if you're a Revista customer, you get unlimited EXE exports, and we've seen a lot of customers that use both. They'll actually host EXEs for later reference off of their Glue site. So they'll just post those post EXE files for those to be able to open up in Revista at a later time. So we see some people utilizing that. Obviously, I think the workflow through the share button in Revista is maybe a little bit more efficient. So when the project's updated, those users are getting that update. If you post that EXE file on Glue, obviously the next time that model is updated, that file is already out of date and possibly irrelevant. So, but we have seen people posting those through an EXE format.
If you pin mouse with a Revit and Navis to the same Revista project, the element shift twice in the pin machine.
No, so if you append models from Revit and Navisworks to the elements show twice in the same location, no, it should not do that. So, and the reason that works is when we append those files, they're coming from the same location. So you can see here, I actually export it from the NWC, NWF that we appended Navisworks and Revito. And Revit into Revista. So as you can see, this is a perfect example that these objects, you're not seeing two of them, you're not seeing double object data. So that should not be occurring. Revista is intelligent enough to identify that those are the same materials in the same coordinate location. It doesn't duplicate that. Yeah, so and just to reiterate that in case those of you guys didn't hear, the question was if you append models from both Revit and Navisworks, do the same show twice in the Revista project. So the answer to that is no, they do not, and you can see that kind of reflected on the screen currently because that format was taken.
Any fixes in reporting? So we do have a lot more reporting, usage reporting.
So fixes and changes and updates to reporting. Reporting is going to be fixed, and I don't want to say fixed necessarily because it works today. There's going to be upgrades and some additional usability to that. There's also some fundamental things that we're changing in terms of usability, so you can select and be more detailed in exactly what you're trying to pull in a report. Our tagging system, I think, is something that's very underutilized. So any tag that you pull in there, you can filter and pull a report by that. So, for example, just as you saw me use the filter button earlier today, you could pull a report by RFI Log, by an individual, by a company name. So I think that's a pretty underutilized feature in Revista that pulls that reports can be pulled by. But yes, the answer is we're going to look into the reporting capabilities and kind of charts and graphs and a little better interface for that pretty shortly. Export Revit MEP spaces versus room elements. I don't know what the, I guess I maybe need a little bit more detail on that question.
Ask Robert Bell to follow up with this.
So I apologize, Robert, if I'm not gathering that. Certainly, if you write me an email or we can discuss that offline, maybe I can get a little bit more detail on that.
Does vector format sheets mean you can measure in 2D now?
So does vector format sheets mean you can measure in 2D as well? Unfortunately, that does not mean you can measure in 2D yet. So so you can do a 2D overlay, and you can see that on the 2D overlay. So if we overlay that 2D PDF on a vector or on a 3D model, we can measure that. That would be the workaround to that. But right now we cannot measure in 2D on the vector format yet, but that's definitely something we can take a look at.
Okay, there's several questions from Andy Lee here. Does this work with AutoCAD MEP?
Does it work with AutoCAD MEP? Yes, it works with AutoCAD MEP. Actually works on almost any AutoCAD-based platform, so that's why it works like Civil 3D. CAD-MEP works as well with those, so anything CAD-based, Revizto will most likely work with. Do you see Revizto used with checklists? So I don't know if that's punch lists that you guys are referring to in terms of checklist. Yeah, I mean, we've seen it used for punch lists as well.
Can we use the pen to mark up sheets in the iPad Pro?
Does the pen work in the iPad Pro? I am not quite sure. I know that. So I know Unity, which is the platform that we're built on, does not support that on the Surface tablet in terms of the pen. So I don't have an iPad Pro with a pen, but I do have a Surface tablet, and I know it doesn't work with that. And that's on the Unity side, unfortunately, not the Revista side. So that's something that Unity is looking to increase in there as well. So so we're looking to see that hopefully coming up shortly, as I know that pen feature would be really nice. In terms of the iPad, unfortunately, I have not tested that, so I can't answer to that.
And same kind of here, can we freehand a markup? Can we freehand a markup on the, so not yet.
So freehand markup, somebody asked if we can freehand draw. The answer is no, we cannot freehand draw on a markup yet. So we're confined. I know the old Revizto had aspects of that. Right now we've just used the the different line tools and measuring tools and markup tools that are in that Revizto icon. That's something we can certainly look into.
Can somebody view an EXE executable file in the Oculus or the Vive?
Can somebody view the EXE file in the Oculus and the Vive? I don't believe so. I think So I think the VR capabilities are tied to your license, and therefore you're going to need to have the Oculus and Vive viewer. So so that file that exe is not exported in a Vive or Oculus format, so therefore they wouldn't be able to view that. So you need to download you need to have a license assigned to you to be able to view that in a VR format.
Are your viewpoints in Navisworks transferred over into Revista?
Our viewpoints in Navisworks transferred over to Revisto. The answer is yes. If you select the viewpoints button right here, you'll see those come across, and underneath original is going to be all of your Revit viewpoints if it's exported out of Revit, and all of your Navisworks viewpoints if you've exported out of Revit. Obviously, the Revisto ones can be created directly in the program, and those you're going to see directly under the Revisto icon. So the answer is yes, all of your Navisworks viewpoints come in.
Are there any other management features to Revista like timekeeping and scheduling, or is it just workflow enhancement for the Autodesk stuff?
So in terms of scheduling and workflow enhancement, in terms of Autodesk software, the switchback and the integration on multiple directions there is our integration with Autodesk. We don't have anything in terms of scheduling currently. As we said, phases are going to come in the future, and scheduling is something I think we might take a look at in the future, but that hasn't been, that priority would fall behind HoloLens and some of the other coordination aspects that we're looking to put in within a short time frame.
Printing sheets?
Printing sheets out of Revisto. I don't think there is an easy way to print sheets directly out of Revisto. So if you want to go up to your Revit sheets and print those, besides doing control print screen and being able to do that, there's not an easy way to print out those sheets with like your company headline or your company logo and stuff on there in an easy to use format. So I would say the answer to that would be no.
Can you view VR offline?
Can you view VR offline? Yes. Actually, all of our platform is done offline. So the nature of Revisto and how it works is if you select the project and you open up that project, you're downloading that locally off of the cloud. We use AWS, Amazon Web Servers to pull that locally. So once that's local, you can do that 100% without internet connection. So if you can get your VR solution set up on a plane, you could view something in VR on an airplane if you had to.
With the sheet export improvements, will you add an option to filter out the linked model sheets?
The sheet export. Will you add? Okay, so the question is, with the sheet export improvements, will you add an option to filter out the linked model sheets? So we're looking at a couple different ways to better select those. Right now, you have to manually select those sheets. So anything turned on within that model, it gives you the ability to export those sheets. So I guess the answer to that question is yes, we are looking at more efficient ways to be able to do that.
Read it out.
Will there be improvements made to the management of the model, specifically allowing the super admins to manage models of their owners? Yes, so that's actually coming up fairly quickly. As we sit today, if we come under edit and see a scheduler, some people are aware of this, others are not. We can see all the models that have been pushed into Revisto, so we could delete these here or edit those. But in terms of the ability of that super admin and the specific rights of what individuals are going to do, that's going to be a lot more customizable in the future.
Okay, we have a Navisworks question here.
So when you export clashes from Navisworks to Revisto issues, do the raw clashes from Navisworks only transfer, or can you group the clashes, export it in the Revisto as one issue? The answer is groups come in as one clash. So, and if I had a good example of that on this project, I'd show you guys. But yeah, really easy. One issue, the group comes in as one issue, and underneath the chat box, as you guys saw me typing in underneath the chat, that will show you a breakdown of all the clashes that were in that group. So if there was 15 or 20 clashes, it will show you the details of each of those individual clashes but it only comes through, you can bring them through as individual clashes or group clashes. So we know that's important to, if you have one team that's creating 23 clashes, we want to make sure that only comes in as one issue. So yes, that comes through as one issue per group.
What about working with design options?
So design options coming out of Revit, we do not support that currently. So you can turn on one of those design options and re-export as a separate project. I know that's not the ideal workflow. It'd be nice to be able to filter those out in Revizto. It's something we're aware of, and I think it's something we'll address in the future. So, but currently today we cannot bring in multiple design options.
All right, that is really it.
So we're heading up to the deadline right now at 1 o'clock. So we wanted to give you guys back your day and thank you guys all for coming, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you guys all at AU. So thanks again for joining us. We really, really appreciate the amount of time you guys spend and the positive feedback that we continue to hear about Revizto and some of the things that you guys would like to see. We really, really appreciate that, and that's kind of what has made Revizto the project it is today. So yeah, we're really appreciative of that, and we can't thank you guys enough. We hope you guys continue to support us and tune in for our next webinar when we release 4.3, as well as checking us out at AU and seeing what that special release will be at AU. So thanks again, guys, and for anybody who didn't have their question answered, we'll follow up with you individually. Thanks, guys.